Today I'll give you my 7 realizations that really help me whenever a negative thought occurs to not be consumed by it, to not entertain it. Just thinking about something is not enough for it to manifest. Things will only manifest once you give it your energy. Start to actually have a conversation with that thought. I'm not sure if I fit in here. If you're entering that frequency, you will actually not fit in. People will feel that. People will get repulsed by that. What we believe about ourselves is what we manifest and is the response we get back from other people. 7 mind shifts that help me whenever a negative thought arises to not end up in a negative thought spiral. My name is Davy. I am a PhD student in chemical engineering at the University of Cambridge. And in my free time I love to study things about self-development, psychology, law of attraction. The main issue that people are dealing with getting out of negative thought spirals, getting away from negative thinking. We're not even able to manifest the things that we want, think about the things that we want, if we're still stuck and shimmering in our negative thoughts. Let me get into it. First realization. Your thoughts don't matter for what you manifest. Your state of being matters. Once you start to entertain that negative thought spiral, feed it your emotions, really adjust your emotional state of being towards that thought, that's when things start to manifest. Negative thoughts on their own are nothing. They don't have any power. If a negative thought arises in your brain, what if that happens? Nothing is going to happen unless you start to entertain that thought. And you're like, oh, but what if that does happen? What would I do? What would I? And then your emotional state, your body is adjusting to that reality, and you're feeding that negative thought energy. You're going off on a spiral. You're giving it more thoughts. You're giving it more emotions. And then your emotional state of being adjusts around that negative thought, and your outside reality starts to recalibrate, and you'll start to manifest the things around that negative thought. Now, why is this important to realize? It's because there is a wall, there is a protection mechanism in between you and your thoughts. You can protect yourself from your thoughts through your emotions. The thoughts don't have the power. The thoughts only get the power once you hand them the currency of the universe, your energy, your emotions. Right? So whenever a negative thought arises, we need to remind ourselves that's just a thought. It's just a thought that is presented to me. It doesn't have any power. It doesn't mean that that is going to happen. Why? Because I decide, I can choose. I'm consciousness that incarnated into this body. I can choose which thoughts to feed. I can choose which thoughts to give my energy. So we don't have to be afraid of our thoughts. And only when we start to entertain that thought, think more thoughts around it, start to have an internal discussion with that negative thought, start to create scenarios around it, only then we're giving that thought power. Maybe you're trying to manifest something specific, but you keep thinking about the opposite, or you keep having negative thoughts. Don't worry about your thoughts. Worry about your emotional state of being. How are you feeling in the current moment? That is what is going to manifest your reality. Your emotional state of being, the way you feel right now, is what is going to manifest your reality. So are you feeling happy? Are you feeling joyful? Are you feeling excited about life? Well, that is exactly what you then can expect in the future. There are going to be circumstances thrown at you that are going to resonate with your current frequency. The way I want you to see thoughts is that they're just presented to you all the time. And latching onto a thought, going off on into a spiral about that thought, that is when you give it your energy. That's when you start to entertain that thought. That's when you start to talk back to that thought. But there's still that conscious power, the choice that you have to not do that. Whenever a negative thought arises, allow it to be. The negative thought can exist. It can be there. It's okay. Second important realization is that I can always change my perspective to a more positive one. Life is truly all about perspective. Everything that we are dreading or things we're not looking forward to, why are we not looking forward to them? Is because we're creating a story up front about how we're not enjoying that, doing that, or how we're bad at that, or how things are not going to go well. But these are just stories. These are just a perspective. What if you start to tell yourself the opposite perspective? And this is something you need to practice with, because it's not going to come natural to you, especially those people that have been thinking very negatively for years. This is a practice where every time you catch yourself on a negative thought or creating a doom scenario around it, try to think of the opposite perspective, even though that might be a perspective that you don't agree with currently, and why would things go well? Or let's say, for example, you're dreading work and then you're gonna tell yourself the opposite perspective, like, oh, I really enjoy work, but you don't enjoy work. You need to practice with this. This shift of perspective is a practice that you need to be very consistent with. Every time you have a negative thought, every time you're dreading something, you try to shift the perspective into something positive. With literally every single thing in your life that is bothering you, there is the possibility to change your perspective about it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you immediately believe the opposite perspective, the more positive one. But if you're consistent with this practice, and every time you find yourself bothered by something, not looking forward to something, annoyed by something, and if you try to just think of the opposite perspective, try to just present it to your brain, you're slowly reprogramming your mind to have the capacity to do this more naturally, to think of the more positive perspective from the get-go. Let's say you're really annoyed by public transport in the morning, you have to be in the tube in the morning, which I have to do currently. Change your perspective and try to think of a way where it could be an enjoyable experience. You're sharing this experience with other people, you're enjoying your coffee, maybe you learn something about the world, you get to see the world. It's really about, I mean, they always say this, right? Finding the joy in the small things. But third important realization is that I only talk about the past as if it was an old version of myself. Maybe have loads of experiences of failure and disappointment that we're carrying with us. Why would life suddenly get good if it has only been so bad? And what has been really helping me recently is that every old experience that I talk about, every past experience, I would refer to as an old version of me went through that. To make sure that our past experiences are no longer defining or providing the boundaries towards what we can manifest in the future. Really make it clear that that was an old version of you that went through that. An old version of you failed. An old version of you wasn't able to manifest money, love, success, etc. An old version of you wasn't confident. Now I am confident. Now I am growing. I am now ready to take on the next steps to work towards my goals and dreams. Stop identifying with your past self. Don't refer to that as who you are. Refer to that as an old version of me that went through that. Fourth realization is that my words speak my reality into existence. And I already alluded to that in my last week's video, but we have to become hyper aware of the words that we speak to others. For example, let's say I'm manifesting money, but then during the day I'm talking to my friends or I'm talking to whoever I'm talking to about how broke I am, how I don't have enough money to pay for my bills or for my groceries or for new things that I want. So my words that I'm speaking during the day are counterproductive to the things I'm manifesting. Another thing, for example, let's say I am trying to manifest to finish my PhD or to have another achievement in your life. Just use your own achievement. But then during the day, you're talking about how hard it is to study or how hard it is to do your PhD or how hard it is to do your work and how you're tired of it. And you're complaining to your friends like, oh, I wish I was off now. I wish I was free. Those words are of extreme significance. Those words are manifested in an experience in which whatever you're trying to achieve or finish is a struggle. So on one hand, you're saying, oh, I'm scripting and I want to achieve X, Y, Z and I want to have money and I want to have this. But your words are not affirming that. Your words are complaining about your current reality. So if you want things to change, you need to stop talking about lack. You need to stop talking about the current reality. You need to stop talking about the things that you don't like. You need to stop complaining. If you're complaining, you're getting more of whatever you're complaining about. So if you don't want more of that, stop complaining about it. Stop talking about how broke you are. Stop talking about how hard it is to do this job or this work or this achievement. Stop talking about it and start affirming the things that you do want. It is easy to do my achievement. It is easy to make money. I am rich. And maybe if you're not rich yet, it's a bit weird to say that to other people because it feels like a lie. Say it to yourself in that case. But don't talk about how you're poor or don't talk about how you're broke. Don't speak about it. Just, it is a form of delusion, isn't it? You're trying to create a different reality. So you need to start to already believe in a reality that isn't here yet. And that starts by stop talking about your current reality and the things that you don't want. Fifth very important realization is romanticize your life and prioritize self-care. This is such an important way of living. As I said in the beginning, it is not your thoughts that manifest, it is your frequency or your emotional state of being that manifests. If our desires are not coming in, doesn't mean we haven't necessarily scripted enough or done the techniques enough or whatever. It is because our current frequency is not the right one. We're not at that happy, excited frequency of receiving our desire. We're not there yet, right? So what can we do in the current present moment to increase our vibration as much as possible? That is through self-care, through being nice to ourselves, through romanticizing your life. Let's say you have to go grocery shopping. Romanticize that whole experience. Make it a routine, make a list, make it something satisfying. Or maybe you have to cook yourself a nice meal. Have a nice skincare and shower routine in the evening and lotion your body and really treat yourself, spoil yourself. Take the time to do those self-care things. Take the time to romanticize your life and be nice to yourself, because you think that has nothing to do with getting to your manifestation. But if we do everything in the present moment to increase our vibration as much as possible, we'll immediately come closer to the reality of having all of our desires. Only more good can come to us from that joyful frequency. So every task that we do, no matter how mundane it is or boring it seems or everyday it seems, romanticize it, make it into a ritual. Put on candles, make everything into this romantic ritual, as if you were surprising yourself or taking yourself on a date or doing something to take care of yourself. Make everything into this loving, romantic self-care ritual. That is how you find joy in the mundane things. And when we find joy in the mundane things, our frequency becomes so powerful, so positive, that only more good things can come to us. Sixth realization, the energy that I give off decides my experience. Sometimes we're so afraid for things to go wrong. Again, we're afraid by our thoughts, but it's your energy that you give off that manifests your experience. That feeling of afraidness is what could manifest negative experiences, not the negative thought on its own. It is the energy behind anything. And you can steer your experiences by adjusting your energy. Do you know how powerful that is? We're walking on this earth and we're so afraid for things to happen. Little do we realize everything is just a reflection of our energy. We don't have to ever be afraid. We are in control over our energy. Control is the wrong word, because we're definitely sometimes subjected by very heavy negative emotions that seem so out of our control, right? I do know that, but that is also only because we're giving value to that negative thought, and we're attaching ourselves, our value to it, we're identifying with it, instead of just objectively looking at things and realizing that our external circumstances are always going to be chaotic. I really like this analogy that the world around you is always going to be like a stormy sea. But if you go into the sea deep enough, if you're at the bottom of the ocean, the water is going to be calm and still. And that is your internal world. If we're able to step out of the external chaos and go back within, we can find that calmness and that peace again. And from that manifest more peaceful experiences around us as well. Final realization is I manifest my truth. And this is a very deep one. We're afraid our day is not going to go well at work. Then we're manifesting a day that is not going to go well at work. We need to understand that there is no truth. We manifest our truth. Everything that we believe becomes the truth. There is no ultimate truth. Nothing is already set in stone. Whatever we decide to be the truth, whatever we believe in with our emotional state, with our frequency, is what becomes the truth. You manifest your truth. And whenever I feel myself getting afraid, I remember, wait, I actually manifest whatever I want to happen. So if I'm going to give this afraidness and this fearful thought a lot of energy, that is what is going to happen. It wasn't happening to begin with. Yeah, it wasn't already happening. It wasn't set in stone. I'm now manifesting an experience in where that is happening. I'm now calling in the reality in which I get the outcome. If we truly believe that we manifest our truth, we are able to fully get rid of fear. Because whenever we get a fearful thought, we realize, actually, I don't want that, so I'm not choosing to give that energy. I don't want to manifest that truth, right? we have the power. Maybe you're having a conversation with your friends, or you're having a conversation with your colleagues and you feel a little bit left out. I don't know, for example, you feel like they don't really want you there. That wasn't true. No one was thinking that. You thinking that, you calling that into existence can make it the truth though. It can happen as a result of you thinking it when you're entering that frequency of, oh, I feel a little bit like excluded. Oh, I'm not sure if I fit in here. If you're entering that frequency, you will actually not fit in. People will feel that. People will get repulsed by that. And that is what is happening when people don't really fit in or get bullied, etc. And I'm not saying anyone deserves that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we manifest our experience. Our frequency is what determines what is going to happen to us. And others around that adjust to adhere to that. What we believe about ourselves is what we manifest, and is the response we get back from other people. Or you're afraid that people don't invite you to things, or I don't know, maybe there's another insecurity that you have in your personal life. Those weren't true to begin with. However, you resonating at that frequency, you're adjusting your emotional state to that thought, is what is manifesting in reality and where that is true. So really understand there is no ultimate truth. There is no such thing. There is only your truth. And your truth is what you believe. And that is what you adjust your emotional state to. And that's what you manifest, right? So you are at the center of this experience. You are the projector, right? You project into this reality, and the reality is just feeding back whatever you are giving. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you made it up until here, leave me a like and a comment with whatever you thought about this video. Maybe some useful mind shifts that you have had recently. Leave them down below. I love to read them. And definitely subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. That really truly supports my channel. And also follow me on Instagram, which is davy_citram, to see more about my personal life, manifestation, etc. And I would love to see you in my next video. Sending you my love.